It is not easy to be a black woman artist. First of all, it is not easy to be a woman artist. And then if you are black or an artist of color, it's even more difficult. We still have a long way to go. This is supposed to be for my clothes. Dealing with Africa, you find out there's no archives. And without archives, you can't write history. My husband documented as much as possible. So you can see, for example, here is albums which goes into the photographs which were taken in Sweden, in Norway, in Denmark, in Tanzania, in France, in Belgium, etc. CD-ROMs about what I have been writing, filming, and things like that. So the archive might look little, but it is not small. I was born in Marangu, Kilimanjaro, Tanzania. That is the slope of Mount Kilimanjaro. And I was born in 1954. I was brought up by my grandmother. We didn't have electricity. We collected water from the rivers. I could just go into her farm and pick the kind of fruits I wanted. That world doesn't exist anymore. My grandmother had 5 children. All were girls. My grandmother's husband was an absent parent. So this was a household of women only. There was no male telling me what to do and what not to do. The idea of me being inferior or not being able to do anything because I was a girl didn't exist in my head. And then I moved to join my parents in town, and suddenly my mother is telling me, make breakfast to your brothers. There was a big difference between a village up in the mountain and coming down to Moshi town. Kilimanjaro was a patriarchal society. It's just that it didn't enter that household of Makuna, my grandmother. For those who were born in the mid-50s, there were discussions in every household about freedom. The whole of Africa was in revolt against colonial powers. All the time we were learning about what was going on in America. It was like the ghost of that was living with us. You grew up knowing that you can be equal. You do not need to say, yes, sir. You could be your own boss. If I didn't grow up in that environment, I don't think I should have become politically conscious and a fighter of my rights. And that stern belief that I'm a human being, I'm equal. There is nothing inferior about me because of me being a woman or being a person of color.
Behind my work, there's a life experience. Who am I? I'm a woman. And who is a woman? A woman is not declared as a human being. You're just the second-class citizen. I'm exposing what it is to be a woman. Then, even you as a man, you can't avoid that.
I left Tanzania in 1973. I was 19 years old. I moved to Sweden with my husband. There were not many people of African origin at all in Sweden at that particular time in the 70s. I was the only black around wherever I lived. So it was just for me to adapt to the new environment, to learn about the new culture, my husband's culture, and get on with it. It is in the second biggest magazine in Sweden. They write about an exhibition about African art. And I was very critical about that exhibition. That is when I started writing myself. By then, they had classified me as a troublemaker, I think. As soon as I came into the public and wrote critical, then it was, who does she think she is? My way to art was not the intention at all. There was no art lessons in school. Tanzania became independent in 1961. This newly independent country, they needed doctors, they needed nurses, they needed engineers. So art was not classified as important. I joined a group of women expatriates who were used to meet once or twice a month to create works of art. When I joined these women, only twice actually, I discovered actually I could draw. After painting for half a year, I had the audacity of flying to the capital of Tanzania, demanding to see the museum boss. I introduced myself and I said I wanted to be exhibited here. Who are you? I introduced myself. And how long have you been painting? 6 months. He laughed. Really? And you want to be exhibited in the National Museum of Tanzania? I said yes. So he spent probably almost 2 hours going through the work. And he told me, I'm going to give you a show. So this is how I got my first exhibition. There is then this Tanzanian newspaper. Everlyn said most of our picture reflects social relations taken from a housewife's point of view, accompanied with a psychological, political, and cultural fantasy. She said the exhibition would act as motivation to other women to take up fine art, which has so far been popular with males only in the society. So, and then there's this picture, which I had totally forgotten. Everlyn busy at her home studio at Sea View in Dar es Salaam. This is the year I started. My art is a product of my life experience. As a Black African woman in Africa and outside Africa. To my disappointment also it was to find there was very little written about African modern art and African modern artists. Then it was just up for me to sort of to research and find out who were there before me. If the knowledge isn't there, then you have to create it. So when I'm creating works of art, I'm in another world. It doesn't matter what kind of traumatic subject I'm dealing with. As far as I'm concerned, art is a medicine of its kind. Given that I had a traumatic experience whereby I had a breakdown, I suffered from diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, I again started dealing with what can I do? Post-traumatic stress disorder? I've never heard of it. I was clinging to life, but I had lost my foothold. I reached out for something to get a grip on reality. My drawing pen was the most real object. Sitting at one and the same spot, at the table, hour after hour, day after day, I was drawing. After my breakdown, I just retreated to myself. I had no language. I didn't even know what I was suffering from. But I was capable of visually articulating what was going on in me and giving them a visual language. I do not think I would be alive today if it was not for the art. Art means everything for me. I found images. And then from there, more knowledge, and then I could give words. When nothing is there, then create it. And again, I can link it to Makuna, my grandmother. She was the boss of that little farm. Everything which was growing there, it was her labor. I think I wouldn't be me without Makuna. That was the real feminist and the real thinker. Feminists and sisters who fought in the older generations, we are now starting to reap the fruits of their fight. The next generation of women artists are not going to be pushed back to where we were. The doors are starting to open. They cannot deny us our place in history anymore. There's nothing women cannot do. Makuna didn't tell us that because we were girls we couldn't climb trees. If they say, you can't, you say, no, I can.